We're talking about a technology, generative AI, that has built into it certain inequities. Not everyone has access to, GPT-4. Not everybody has necessarily the same background and knowledge base to use these systems. And your campus, if it's like our campus, faculty are concerned about this tool for lots of reasons. One being, is the material that I'm presenting going to be leaked out into this greater internet and made available to train models in the future? And second, as we'll get into, how do we put some boundaries around what is the information that I want as the instructor in my course to share with my students via generative AI? So this tool that we'll be describing here, we've funded by the National Science Foundation, and as I'll show you, is now available for pilots at other schools. The concept here is, how do we create a virtual teaching assistant? How do we help students find the material they need more efficiently? And how can we make a system that delivers information that's solely based on your own class? All right, so I'm going to now... We saw on Tuesday a presentation by Kyle Bowen from ASU. And I have to say, I am jealous. If you sat through that presentation, and you should go back if you didn't, where this described the visions they have at ASU for how to engage with generative AI. It's a model that most schools have yet to adopt. It's a large thinking model. Most of us are still figuring out how to use generative AI to benefit our students. And that's what we want to talk about today, is the benefit to students. Now, as part of our research with the National Science Foundation, we have been going out and talking to a number of instructors around the country. If I didn't talk to you, I apologize, because we've been on the horn with many. And we're particularly struck by the fact that if you talk to people in community colleges, two-year schools, that they worry about completion rate. And they worry about completion rate because many students are time challenged. The completion rate in full-time, first-time students is about 34%. That means that not everyone is getting the full advantage of the educational opportunity here. And some of the reasons that they don't is because they are time challenged. They have jobs, they have families, they have other responsibilities. Likewise, Roger from Palm Beach State sees a need simply to engage students. Much of the stuff online is not particularly attractive. Let's be honest, it's just recorded video, and there's not much opportunity for the student to be able to interact with that material. And that was the problem that Kevin and I took on here. We have a team of about 18 students on campus, gave them some wild challenges to go out and find what sorts of platforms would make it more accessible to a wider range of students, and how do we increase the potential for students to be able to find the information they need to study in a timely way. Also, we are somewhat concerned. I was a professor. I am still a professor. I stopped teaching last April after 44 years on the faculty teaching classes in extreme weather and climate change. We saw in my own classes that the students had much more stress. Stress coming after COVID seems to have gone up exponentially. Studies around the country, as shown here, illustrate that many students are stressed, and they're stressed for lots of reasons that I think generative AI can actually help with. The first of which is, the cost of living. The cost of education, I mean. So the red line here, the orange line here is the rate at which tuition and fees have been going up since 1978, which is when I began my job at the University of Michigan. And where the consumer price index has been going up, but nowhere near as fast. And students are challenged with the financial stress of having to find the money to get through school. And to find that money, they're going to usually take on jobs during the school year. Adult learners that may already have jobs, and yet they want to upskill themselves. They want to go back to school to get a certificate or a degree. But they're challenged, they're time challenged. And what we see this is data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, is that depending if you're a 2-year college or a 4-year college, a large percentage of our students are working as they're trying to advance themselves in education. I don't think the institutions often acknowledge that. There are students that just really, I was a first generation student. When I went to college, I did not feel like I belonged there. I certainly didn't feel like we could afford it. And so you're challenged. These are students who are challenged, and our job is to figure out how we can use generative AI to help them with their time management, to help them study more efficiently. So these students with these challenges might be work and family. Sometimes campus is not a very supportive place in the following way. If you have a job and your instructor has office hours on Wednesday from 3 to 5, you may be in work at that point. You don't have the opportunity to take advantage of the resources the institution makes available. And a lot of these students don't feel a sense of belongingness. They're less likely to pose questions during class. They're somewhat challenged by the interactions going on in class, and they just don't feel like they have the background to even participate in a healthy way. So again, how can generative AI help us with these questions? Which is really an equity question when it comes down to it. Those who have jobs, those who are challenged by time, may not have the opportunities the other students have. So let me learn how to use the Kaltura system here. So the students turn to using these systems like OpenAI. And a student in class then has access to everything that is in the large language models before, I think it's 2022 at the moment. They can get access to a lot of information, but now as an instructor, that's yay good for the student, but also challenging, because some of the information you're likely to find isn't necessarily the kind of information that I had intended to teach them in my class, and nor do I agree with that information. So the student may not really want the information for the entire internet as is available to us through OpenAI and etc. They probably just want information that's for a specific course. And that's the system that Kevin and I have been creating. So they want to get information just from a particular course, and in that course, there's a plethora of educational resources available to the student. Now you're time challenged. You've got a course, but in that course, let's move forward here. But in that course, there's probably a whole range of technologies that have been made available for that course. Class videos from like Kaltura and other sources, or in your LMS. The instructor has probably made content available to you there as well, and the textbooks, and there's other resources available to the students. They have to go out now and identify which parts of all this information should they be studying in their limited time. How do I gain a good understanding of the content? And I'm going to spend a lot of time simply looking material up. So that's the part that Kevin and I have worked on. Oh, first of all, if you look at the data, think about it yourself. You have to go out and do research on a topic, whatever topic that might be. I want to make a carrot cake. I'm going to go out and try to find the information about how to do that. But I'm going to spend a fair amount of time simply identifying what's the content, where is that content I need. And this is not an official scientific study, but something a large percentage of the time a student has is spent simply trying to identify the content they should be studying. It's not always obvious to the student. And so here is where we think we can make a contribution. Can we reduce the amount of time it takes for students to find the content they need? And the niche that Kevin and I have come up with is that we automatically, for any given course, can set up a system that extracts the content for that course, the videos for the course. We can get the transcripts from the course automatically from any number of these vendors. We can take the video from the course and actually do extract from the video what words were visually presented during class. And that's helpful because these audio transcriptions aren't always totally accurate. That way we can find, the more technical words, the more words specific to a discipline that were presented during class, even if the audio transcription doesn't do a good job. And Kevin is brilliantly working now with OpenAI to not only do that, but actually look for any graphs, equations, tables, etc. that are displayed during class and extract the information about that. And all this is stored as metadata. Pointers back to the material that the instructor has made available in class. We also can go and scrape, with your permission, the LMS and what documents has the instructor made available in the LMS. Are there PDFs? Are there links to URLs? All these things we're able to extract then for a course and again store it as pointers in our system. And if you have an open education textbook, we can also ingest that into the system to be part of the database available to the student. And then we've built a system where you can ask a question. And when you ask that question, we go and look at everything that's in the course that we've collected and extract those parts that are related to the question, and then use generative AI largely just to answer the question. But importantly here, the responses the students are going to get to their questions are based solely on what's been made available by the instructor or discussed in class. And that's a significant change. We're put guardrails around this, and the material that's being collected is not allowed to go, drift back out into the large language models. It is securely kept away from those models. So, having said that, I'm going to now learn this new tool here and switch. Any questions, by the way, as I'm going through this?
Nothing so far.
Excellent. What you're seeing right now is an example of the system. We call it LearningClues, and it's run with we have LTI integration into every LMS. This is into Canvas. And this is a test case we're just trying out for your example here. If you have a question about the solar eclipse next Monday, we have ingested all the content from NASA about the solar eclipse to demonstrate how this might work. In your class, we would have all the content from your class automatically ingested. So I'm looking for somebody to ask a question in the chat about the solar eclipse. Question. I see. Okay. We'll pass over Florida. Let's see if that's covered in these videos.
And we have one question, which is, will it pass over Florida? How long will it last in Toledo?
I'll try that one.
And then I have a couple of substantive questions above that when you get a chance.
And Toledo. Now it's possible that NASA didn't specify a particular town, but let's see. No, that was not covered. I'm guessing it probably also the issue of Florida would not be covered also. Well, here's a question. What precautions are appropriate for watching the eclipse? And it comes back then with an answer. You can see the answer here about how to watch the eclipse, but notice it also has citations. So it's going to give you an answer, but it's going to show you what part of your course material it's based on. So number one here would be this video. When we open up that video, it's going to take us to the NASA video where they are talking about how to watch the eclipse. And that's the concept here. It's only the material from your course. It's got the citations built in showing where that content is. Now, I see the question here about copyright. Good question. This is material that's only available to the students in your class and you, period. And hence, this is material that you have made available to your students through LMS or in class. And so it's no more exposed than the material you already made available to your class. And in that way, we don't believe there's a copyright issue here. You have the right to show this material in your class, the right to share it in the LMS. Therefore, we are simply allowing the student to find that material faster. So, or my own course, here's a course in extreme weather where you could ask any question about extreme weather, and the point is, I'm a lazy professor. I don't want to stay up at 11 o'clock at night to answer a student's question, but here it's packaged everything I've said or made available, and now the student can ask the question 24/7, so it's like getting a virtual teaching assistant. And what we've done here is we are also watching what questions students are asking and or using generative AI to identify what questions should you be asking at a particular point in the course. And we list them here to sort of to prime the pump. So how do I calculate relative humidity? It's now going through my 31 lectures for that semester. Comes back with not only the answer here, but it's got the citations built in. And one of the citations is me speaking in class about this how to calculate relative humidity. And another one was from a document that I made available in the LMS, and it'll then open up that file to the book I wrote and take me to the page where that's discussed. So you can see it will help students find the material they need much faster. And these questions that they ask are all being stored. So I ask another question. Everything is stored here. They can come back and review as time goes on. Let me go back now, unless there are questions. And here I am, and
looks like there is one question. I know it appears that you can see them from John Jordy. I would like to find this very useful. If I were a faculty, it would limit the amount of questions I get in my emails, but also help students find their materials quickly.
Although, thank you. Those are good points, and we didn't make this simply to make our jobs easier, but more thinking about, again, the student who doesn't want to ask the question in class. They can ask a question, and I have some confidence the answer they're going to get is based on what I've said or made available. So, not just getting some hallucination from the internet. This is based on that being trained on the material from your course. Now, hopefully, it helps students to get answers when they need it. And maybe it does reduce the number of emails that we get as instructors. Either way, it's good. It's good. Let's see here. All right, so we've talked about this, the citations, and importantly, going back to the instructors. Somebody this morning talked about we already have. I think here's Amy again. We already have so much on our plate as instructors. So if we're going to do something with generative AI, what is it we're not going to do? And here is where maybe we wouldn't have to answer so many emails. And students would, in fact, be able to get their answers when they need them, and hopefully students would then have the time to get the information they need, and then would be less likely to drop out of the course. We have done some studies on campus. It shouldn't surprise you that when in this course we had them define certain terms in the course, both with and without the use of the system, and it's like 2 minutes faster to find the information they needed per search. Now, again, if you're a student who's got a job and you've got limited time, but you want to do well on the exam, this could potentially get you that information you need much faster. Now, there's more, though. As we're thinking about this going forward, we have started to build, coming out next, beyond this, is we also want the student to do more reflection. As it happens, many students don't do a lot of reflection until it's just before the exam, then they cram for the exam. Pedagogically, we know that's not the best model. So what we're building then is the ability to watch each individual class session, interrogate that using generative AI, and then send to the student an hour or two after class a link saying, all right, here are what we think the highlights of this particular session, with links back to the video so they can go and hear that spot in the video. Again, helping them focus their study on the things in class, because not everything in class, let's be honest, is God's gift to education. I'll go off and tell some story about back in 2019. But the students this will generate then what are the spots you really should look at in the lecture if you have limited time. And more than that, it generates questions based on what was talked about in class that the student should be able to answer for that session. And the hope here is that then, it would be kind of like Duolingo for class. It would be challenging you daily with small challenges that would help you keep up to speed on what's being covered in the class, and small questions that you might be able to answer as you're on the bus or wherever. But the more continuous reflection, we know pedagogically, has been shown to be valuable. And Kevin can go in probably more detail about what use of questions in class and coming back to challenge those questions again at various points later in the semester. You want to speak to that, Kevin?
Yeah, so I guess what we're doing internally in our tool is, on the one side, on the content side, creating a very rich, educationally centered representation of what's being said in class, what's being shown in class, even what students are working on and reading. But the other part of that is, as Perry said, on the student side, the student model. So understanding within a class and potentially across all of the students' classes, what kind of progress they're making. So through the use of these questions or quick assessments that we can provide, where the student is. We can also kind of alert them. So because we have this very rich educational metadata in the content pre-analyzed, we can also say, hey, here's what's coming up. Here's why this particular concept is going to be important in the next lecture or even the next class. So we view our system as integrating a very rich educationally centered representation of the content, but also a very rich representation of the student, and then bringing those two things together.
And we know that not all we want students to do more reflection continuously, like through this system, but we also appreciate this. Many students are still going to cram just before the exam. So we have the additional tool that we call the study guide, where the student chooses a period of days, September 1 to October 15th, and we're able to aggregate the concepts which were covered over that period and then generate automatically flashcards, where the flashcards challenge you to be able to answer the keywords being discussed in class with links back to the video where it was discussed and other questions that you should be able to answer based on the material in the course. Again, if you're a student with limited time, this is going to help challenge your focus or help focus your study in the hopes that we can help move that student successfully through the course. So these tools that we are generating, first of all, they automatically curate the content in your course. You don't have to do anything. There's a step we have to go through where we connect with the university system. But for that, after that, it's connected and we get the access to the content. You can shut it off anytime you want to. We want to support the learners in the course, particularly those who maybe are time challenged. It's course specific. So you have the control, as the instructor, you have control over what's going to be included in the content that the students have access to. It promotes more continuous and frequent reflection. It generates formative assessment questions, and it generates flashcards based on the topics covered over whatever time period you want. If we are in the stage now of inviting other campuses to participate in pilots, the pilot stage that we're in is that there is an organizational level to this. We do a webinar. You connect with us. We will do a webinar to you and your staff. We want you to define success metrics. What would you expect this to do? I mean, it's important in this pilot to know what you're aiming for. You select the courses. We do then start instructor webinars. I see my time is getting small here. And we also work with your technical team to connect with your video and LMS content. And then we conduct the pilot study. So, and let me just move forward here to this spot. If you find this intriguing enough to want to hear more, I invite you to take a picture of this QR code on the screen, which will connect you to our website, and you can then sign up there for more information about these pilot studies. We think this has got great potential to help students from community college through doctoral universities to be able to study when you're challenged, both challenged for time, and I should also add challenge for focus. We're finding a lot of students who are having a hard time focus for many, many reasons are able to get more focus using tools like this. All right, I'm going to stop here and we will answer questions. Again, hard questions. Aim them, Kevin.
I'm seeing just one question earlier, and I think you answered it with this last slide. Will it be made available for us to try out or to build our own version?
Yes, it certainly will. We have pilots starting at a number of schools. Palm Beach State College in Florida, the California Virtual Campus for community colleges, and we're in the process of working with the UC San Diego, University of Michigan, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some here, but
Minnesota.
Other schools are signing up for these studies. This was, again, we are at the stage of gathering data to understand how does this help students and to what degree does it help students, and key in this thing I glossed over back here was this defining success metrics. You know, what are the things, if you're going to adopt some new technology in generative AI, you ought to begin by defining what is it you're trying to change. So I just throw up some ideas here for the kinds of things you'd want to know more about, and we would work with you to define what are those metrics you want to change, and with this system, collect the data that can help you define if we're meeting that goal. I do want to, by the way, before I hang up here, I go back to one thing that I got this morning from Amy Goodburn, defined this concept of a petting zoo for generative AI. I think every campus should have a petting zoo day, like she suggested, of various tools available on campus that you can just take for a test drive.
One more question came in from Jane Russell. Where is student interaction with the StudyClues data located?
That interaction is stored. We have all this is in the cloud on AWS with very, very strong security in place. Again, that information and the interactions are only available per course to the instructor and the students in that course. In fact, one of the things that we are sensitive to is that in some areas of the country, there's pressure about what we should and shouldn't be teaching in our courses. We do not have any intention of releasing anything that's being taught in the course to anyone except the instructor and the students. Well, I hope you will consider sending us a note and indicating I will type I should have offered this and didn't, but I'll put my email address in chat here. That if you have questions, we'd be pleased to answer them offline as well. And if you have questions about the Eclipse, anyway, I'll stick around for a while.
Great.
Thank you, James.
All right, I'll stop recording. Thank you so much.
Thank you.